Welcome to Dungeon Academics. My name is Thomas and I will be your instructor. I'd like to talk a little bit about gaming supplements and one gaming supplement in particular. Once you've got the core rules for any roleplay game, you are normally shown a cornucopia of possible add-on rules. The number of Dungeons and Dragons books I have is quite high at the moment. It takes up quite a significant amount of shelf space spread across a couple of shelving. I've got one over here and one up here. So I have a lot of D&D books. But I bought one just before Christmas for a different game, for Pendragon, and it stands out. Normally when you buy a roleplay supplement, you want to consider two things: how useful it's going to be and how much fun it's going to be. If something is going to be very useful and good fun, then investing the money in it seems like a no-brainer. On the other hand, if it's not going to be very useful and it's not going to be much fun, adding it to your game when it's just additional rules that aren't necessary, there doesn't seem to be much point in that. But what happens if you have something that stands out, that it's an awful lot of fun, but not very useful? I'd like to present the Book of Sires for Pendragon. This is the most fun, but perhaps least useful roleplay supplement I have ever bought. And I would recommend it for everyone that plays Pendragon. And I think it's a beautiful thing to have. What is it then? Well, Pendragon is a fantastically fun game. I'm not going to say mechanically it's the best game I've ever played, but it's a fun game and I've enjoyed playing it a lot. And it has one of the most involved character creation systems that I've ever used. Character creation is covered in the core rulebook, but there are two rule supplements to enhance character creation. There is the Book of Knights and Ladies, which I have a PDF copy of, and the Book of Sires, which I have a physical copy of. And together they cover the most involved and detailed character creation system that I have ever seen. The three of us that were playing spent about 5 hours on character creation, and the majority of that was rolling up from this book the history of our character's father and their father's father. That is all that this book is for. It's 275 pages of historical events and semi-historical events and random tables going through the decades that your father and paternal grandfather were knights. And it was fun. It added this element to character creation that we can talk about the great acts of our father and our father's father, how they contributed to this period in sub-Roman Britain. And I loved it. I loved it. The total time spent on character creation, as I said, was about 5 hours. We've actually spent more time making characters than playing them at this moment, but it's been fun. There are some issues I have with this book, and they resonate with other things I've talked about in game design before. But just to have that level of detail in your character backstory, it's beautiful. I feel like my character is a real historical person now, with great deeds in their future reflecting the great deeds in their past. And that level of character attachment makes the game so much more fun for myself. I'm sure there are plenty of people who have a completely different attitude from me from character creation. They're willing to go, pre-made character, let's just get on with the game. That doesn't work for me. I'll be honest, I don't enjoy playing pre-made characters, because part of a roleplay game for me is getting attached to the character by making the character. But everyone's different, and that's okay. Would I recommend Book of Sires for everyone? Absolutely not. I definitely wouldn't recommend Pendragon for everyone, because it's a type of roleplay game that's very, very different. I think it's great. I love Pendragon, and I'd recommend everyone gives it a try, but I'm sure a lot of people are going to try it and go, not for me. And that's okay. That's okay. What didn't I like about the character creation? It was very, very randomized. Now, I've talked about this before with character creation in Dungeons and Dragons, that you can end up in situations where one character is massively overpowered compared to the other characters in the party. Part of this is to do with the way ability scores are rolled and the fact that ability scores are so important for the character. I'll mention this now. I rolled up a new character. I talked about it in my previous videos. And the ability scores I rolled, I was allowed to roll 2 sets and pick which one. This is the first set I rolled, and I picked that one. There's 2 17s, a 16, a 14, a 12, and a 9. That's ridiculously good stats. The second set that I rolled, 12, 9, 8, 12, 13, 10, is kind of rubbish. The highest stat is 13. If there were 2 players in the same campaign, and one player had these stats and the other player had those, this player probably would end up feeling like a supporting character the whole time. This is clearly the rock star and the roadie, and I don't like that. We did some things in Pendragon to even this out. We used a system called community pool rolling, where we rolled the same dice and used the same pool of ability scores, but could allocate them in different places. So we actually have very matched ability scores. I like that. But even then, there is a lot of randomness. There is a D100 roll to see how wealthy your father was. And based on that, you get different starting equipment. And the difference in the starting equipment is quite significant. And just on one D100 roll with no modifiers, no re-rolls, it's like you start this game with great equipment and you start this game with crap equipment. That's it. There's nothing else to do. Also, in the Book of Sires, again, love this book. There's one part... There are a few parts where you get to make a choice, and I love those parts. There is a rebellion against one of the kings, and you can choose whether your grandfather is going to be on the side of the rebellion or the loyalists, and this will affect the way that the history of your family goes. And that was great fun. There's another part where King Aurelius goes on a crusade into Europe. And one of the rolls on the table is whether your father went on that crusade with them. And if they go on that crusade with them, they get loads of glory, there's loads of cool adventures. And if they don't, they stay at home and fight against Saxon raids and bandits. And it seems less fun. One option is great and fun, and the other option is less glorious and less fun. And that's decided by a random dice roll. I don't like that so much. I like a degree of randomness in games, but where randomness can say you have fun and you have less fun, then perhaps it's not the best use. The writer of Pendragon has said that it was never meant to be balanced, and they are open and honest about that, and that's fair enough. But it wouldn't have taken much to make sure it was balanced, or to make sure that if there are random story elements, that both have equal opportunity for fun and glory. I really prefer roleplay games with point-buy systems because it offers this element of balance and choice. If you're going to be throwing random elements into the game, you really don't want to end up in situations where randomly some people have a better experience and other people have a worse experience. That isn't fun gameplay. It might be realistic, it might be, there might be other reasons for it, but I think it should probably be avoided. Nonetheless, if you play Pendragon, look into this. It's available as a PDF as well if you don't want to get the hard copy, but I thought it was so beautiful and so much fun, it's earned a place on my shelf. Again, only used in character creation, but just to flick through it and read this wonderfully detailed fictional history of sub-Roman Britain, and then it's got lovely maps in the back as well. It's a nice thing to own. It feels good to have. A lot of fun. Probably the least useful roleplay supplement that I've got, but I love it. So, have you used this? What's your experiences with Pendragon yourself? I've played 5th edition, and now playing a sort of weird hybrid 5th, 6th edition crossover, because not all the supplements are out for 6th edition yet, but it's a fun game. Tell me what you think, and enjoy your next game, whatever it may be.